So here's a very easy way to turbocharge your very small solar panel. No, you don't need a big one. No, you don't need a lot of them. And no, you don't even need a lot of sunlight. Now, if you've ever worked with tiny solar panels, you probably know that on a cloudy day like this, there's really not much of a charge to do anything. You can hook up a multimeter to the terminals, and it might show you like 18 volts if it's an 18 volt system. It'll show you 48 volts if it's a 48 volt system. But as soon as you connect anything, then it drops to millivolts, and that sucks. Because, you know, some things, they really need a bit of a current before it turns on. So here is my crazy, stupid way to kind of overcome that and to turbocharge your system. What I call these are mini supercapacitors, because what I consider supercapacitors is they have at least 3,000 farads. But these itty bitty babies right here, these little green things, have 10 farads a piece, which is enough to get this going. Now these are 2.7 volts a piece. This is 18 volts. And I've got 8 of them in series, and as you can see, I have 2 in parallel for the 8th one. And then that series has some electrolytic capacitors in parallel. So it's a total of a few farads plus a few more microfarads on top of that, just to give it a little bit more of a oomph, because, you know, electrolytic capacitors charge much faster than supercapacitors. Now, what does that do is, well, let's look at the multimeter. So I'm gonna use the negative to connect and see what's going on. Let's see what this thing reads right now. Okay, now the sunlight, it is slowly but surely charging this thing up, and we're holding because it's connected to something. No matter what it is, as long as the circuit is connected, it's officially under load. Now, because it's under load, we can actually figure out how useful it is. Now, because I have a diode on the end, and these electrolytic capacitors plus the supercapacitors slam the electricity out as fast as possible unless you limit it. So if you're trying to trigger something to turn on, and it requires 24 volts, and you need a current high enough to make it recognize, and originally, if your solar panel dropped to millivolts as soon as you touched it, well, here's a little trick to do that. On the positive side, and the new color code here, brown is positive, blue is a negative. Just go ahead and hook up a couple of capacitors onto the front. Then, no matter if you have a cloudy day, even if it's nighttime, you have a bit of a jump start to connect to any current. Now, don't do this if you're not experienced. Electricity does hurt when it shocks you, and you can die. And also, this is not safe the way I'm doing it. I should go back in here and actually wrap up those terminals. I just did this really quick to bust out a quick video. After I turn this video off, I'm going to tape up those terminals so they're not exposed like that. Oh, just another thing. I use these kind of capacitors. I don't use those other kinds that are just like, they got like a black dot in the middle, because they don't, they're not cool. These are pretty powerful, and they have a pretty low resistance too. So yeah, also, because when you push electricity out, one thing you got to be careful about is back charging. You don't want to back charge electricity back into anything else, especially your tiny solar panel, because that tiny solar panel has a max current, and if you fill up capacitors and you don't put a diode on it and you back current into your solar panel, you could probably blow the wiring of your solar panel. So diodes, very important. All right, there you go. Here's my really quick, under 5 minutes, super quick way to turbocharge your solar panel and power whatever you need to power, or get something jump started, maybe charge a battery, without too much trouble, and probably less than 10-20 bucks. All right, I'm Chris David, and this is my know-how.